I had been lucky in my life to know my great-grandparents. This story is from 2011 when my great-grandmother passed away. Her service was held in a funeral home not far from where I lived in the city. My mom, dad, and sister drove up for the funeral from the small town we're all from originally and picked me up on their way. I've always had encounters with the paranormal, and I find funeral homes particularly busy places where spirits may see that we are more open in our grief or our closeness to the other side, having just lost a loved one. The funeral service was held in the main room of the home, with the casket in the front of the room, beautifully laid out with flowers. I went and put flowers on the casket with my sister before the service started. The service was held, and then we moved next door to the adjoining room for tea. There were around 30 people at the service in total, and the vast majority were my family members and some extended family that I had met when I was young. Despite the sadness of the day, it was nice to meet some of my very distant cousins who were the same age as me. During the tea service, I needed to use the restroom. The bathroom was located at the front of the building, which involved walking back through the first room the service had been held in. I was fine on the way as I followed another lady, but once I stepped out again, I realized I was entirely alone in a large room with the casket. I looked over at it, and I was surprised to see there was a man standing there with his head bowed, paying his respects. This man had an otherworldly type of haze around him, and his suit just wasn't quite the right color, as if he was faded. He was a very tall man, and no one at the service I had seen was quite his height. I stared for a moment, but then I felt like I was intruding, and I hurried back to my immediate family in the reception area. My great-grandmother had been married 3 times in her life, and while my great-grandfather had died quite young, her second husband had always been described to me as a tall man. He too had died before I was born. I wasn't scared. My great-grandmother's last visitor didn't acknowledge me at all, but I feel like there must have been a reason I was able to see him that day.